Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nairobi Health Show. I'm Dave Sher, and I've got Eric Levi. Nootropics is kind of a buzzword in the health industry, but today we're going to dive into what it really means. And Eric has a site, holisticnootropics.com, where he's been exploring nootropics for some time and also is a certified holistic nutritional therapy practitioner. And so he has expertise in this area. So Eric, thanks for coming on the show.
Honored to be here, Dave. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and I met you when you invited me to be on your show, which was a lot of fun, and we talked about nootropics there, and my limited knowledge, and dive more into probably sideline kind of supplements to nootropics. And so I'm excited to have you on my show, and it's a topic we've actually never covered. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm a supplement seller. It's what I do for a living. I have Nairobi.com, and we have a line of supplements, but nootropics is not really a focus. We're more focused on filling in deficiencies, weight loss, and the various needs of people, generally grown-ups. We don't cater to the young Instagram crowd. It's more people from their 30s to 70s who are dealing with the grown-up issues of health. Mm-hmm. And nootropics plays a role there. So first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be an expert on nootropics?
Yeah, this is great. So my background is, like a lot of holistic practitioners and health coaches, I had my own run-ins with health and really found the holistic way is really the best way. The broken sick care system, I became very disenchanted with it. I worked in it. I experienced just the bad sides of it. I saw friends of mine and people I knew and respected who were essentially becoming, beholden to it, filing bankruptcy because of it. And I quickly realized that if I was going to stay healthy, that I needed to do this myself, and I needed to rely on the best possible way to keep myself healthy, which is not just looking at the body as, specific parts, but realizing that everything works together. And once I embraced that, then everything in my life changed. And I really wanted to help other people. I saw, I understand that there's so many people, probably people that follow you, that are in the older crowd, have a very kind of old school view of health. And, the things that we've learned about nutrition and wellness and holistic health and biohacking just in the last 20 years alone has, revolutionized so many aspects of the field. So I wanted to be a part of that movement. So I became a nutritional therapy practitioner certified to the Nutritional Therapy Association. This was about 4 years ago or so. And we started working with people. And what I really found was that working one-on-one with people, like I was working with people in person. I learned all of these amazing modalities like lingoneural testing, where you could literally take a supplement and put just a little bit on a person's tongue and then palpate different parts of their body and see how they respond to it. And you could tell right there on your massage table if a nutrient works for somebody or not. And from there, you could also start to understand what is a person deficient in, because if a person reacts very profoundly to, let's say, vitamin C, then that probably means that person's severely vitamin C deficient. And you could do that with a whole spectrum of vitamins, minerals, different nutrient supplement products. But working with people one-on-one in person is very limiting. And the fact is that if you want to reach a bigger audience, online is where you have to go. So I started getting into the biohacking space a little bit. And I started to notice, too, there was this thing pertaining to mental health. I started to notice people's mental health was really not good. And I've dealt with my share of depression, but never diagnosed as being clinically depressed, but certainly had bouts of depression, certainly anxiety, certainly worry, panic attacks, those sorts of things. I've realized there is a real need for good mental health discussion, because the mental health discussion we have now, first of all, everyone tells you, well, we need to have a discussion about mental health, but nobody actually really wants to talk about mental health. What they want to talk about is how can you get on more prescription drugs for your mental health. So that's not the conversation. The conversation is, what can we do biochemically, physiologically, bioenergetically to really help somebody optimize the function of their brain. And that ultimately brought me to nootropics. And then in the nootropics community, these are people who are, they do a lot of research. If you are someone who's into nootropics, you probably have a good idea. You probably have a decent base of biochemical knowledge, of physiological knowledge. There's a lot of people out there who know just enough to be dangerous, which is not good. But there's a lot of people out there who have done a lot of research, who dive into PubMed. And that's what really drew me into the nootropics crowd, was the educated discussion. Even if a lot of people are wrong, it makes you want to do the research and dive into these studies on PubMed and lose hours of your day, researching things like Bacopa monnieri and ashwagandha and lion's mane mushroom and the racetams. But what I find is that, and you probably see this a lot in this, working with supplements too, is that people have a very pharmaceutical approach to supplementation, which I think is a problem. Because what we do is we say, well, if something works, then more of it must be better. And that's not how the body works. Everybody's body is different. So, what I decided to do was start my website, Holistic Nootropics, and then my podcast, Holistic Nootropics, and my YouTube channel, Holistic Nootropics, partly about nootropics, but mostly about how can we use these holistic health principles to boost somebody's brain, boost their mind-body connection, so that if they do use nootropics, that those nootropics actually work. And you don't fall into a trap of, well, I'm using nootropic A, B, and C, and I'm not getting the results I want, so clearly what I need is D, E, F, and G. Instead saying, well, if A, B, and C isn't working, what is going on with your body that's not allowing those nootropics to work? What is it about your, for instance, gut health that isn't optimized? Because most of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut. What is it about your metabolism that isn't right? Because if your metabolism isn't optimized, if your blood sugar is dysregulated, if your liver's not working properly, then you're not synthesizing those neurotransmitters. You're not getting the neurotransmitters to where they need to go. If you have thyroid problems, you're not getting the thyroid hormone into your blood, into your cells, all of these things, right? And then what is going on with your environmental toxicity? Because again, so many of these environmental chemicals, they cross the blood-brain barrier. They sabotage your brain. Plastics, phthalates, all kinds of these environmental chemicals, mold.
That's a big one.
You'd be shocked at mold is huge. Yeah. You'd be shocked at things like chemicals in fireworks, chemicals in the floor mats of your gym, chemicals if you're at a gas station, all of these things add up. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I wanted to go back to something that you said before we went too much further down the road, and your statement about people taking a medicinal approach to health and to natural solutions. It really is interesting to me. I do some free coaching for clients, so I have quite a few of those sessions. I really enjoy them. They're very interesting and fun for me to meet people from all over the world and just chat for 20 minutes about their health, what challenges they might have. And two points that I would like to make, and then just have you kind of riff on those. And the first one is that we all take care of our vehicles if we own a vehicle, or we should. We know that when the tires get low, we should get new tires. The tread gets low, we should get new tires. When our car needs an oil change, we should go get an oil change. But we don't go back to Jiffy Lube 2 weeks later and go, my car isn't any faster. I want my money back. I got an oil change here 2 weeks ago, and really it feels exactly the same. I'm really feeling ripped off. Mm-hmm. We don't even think to do that, yet we change our oil every 5,000 or 10,000, whatever is recommended ideally. And we don't expect anything to change, except that we expect that engine to last 200,000 miles, or if we don't do any oil changes, maybe it'll last 80. For some reason, we don't take that approach in health. We treat our body somewhat differently. We don't think in terms of maintenance. We don't think in terms of, Eric, sometimes we take a new thing that we know is good for us, and our life doesn't change significantly yet, right? So it's kind of a tricky thing.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And, people have unrealistic expectations when it comes to health and wellness, and that's, I think that's also partly us, that like we're to blame, the people in the health and wellness industry, because we are selling rainbows and butterflies, and we're selling jogging shirtless on the beach, and living your dream life and your best life. And man, that is such baloney for so many people, because if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and your health is falling apart, it took you that many years to get there. It's unrealistic to think that you're going to fix this in a week or 2 weeks. I always say, and I don't know how your coaching approach, but my coaching approach is like, you need 3 months to start to maybe even see a little bit of a difference, something that your body's telling you you're on the right course. And then if you take a plan, or you take, you make a change to your diet, or you change to your lifestyle, or you start a supplement protocol, you do that for 3 months, and then you notice it starts working, you can't also expect it to work ad infinitum, because your body has these rate limiting mechanisms where sometimes you take so much of a thing, you do so much of a thing, and it says, okay, we're done with that. We got our fill. We're good. We fixed that. Sometimes these things, they work in balances, like minerals, for instance. Mineral balancing is one of the most misunderstood aspects of health and wellness. Everyone just thinks, I'm going to take 1,000 milligrams of magnesium a day. I'm going to take 3,000 milligrams of magnesium a day. Some people are just taking zinc willy-nilly. Some people are taking copper, right? Some people are taking selenium. And what people don't realize is these things, they work in ratios with other minerals, right? If you've ever read a book on minerals, you see there's like this wheel, and it's like, I don't know, hundreds of spokes, maybe not hundreds, but dozens of spokes. And each mineral like connects to another mineral, and that's telling you exactly like how that interacts with something. There's people out there, they'll go to the doctor and they'll see that their ferritin's low. So what do? They get on an iron supplement. And this is like one of the worst things you can do. As soon as you get on an iron supplement, your copper is going to go down, your zinc's going to go down. Then, this copper, it might not be, chances are it's probably not bioavailable, which means it's not used properly by your body. And copper gets stored in all kinds of crazy places: your liver, your brain, your thyroid, your gut, depending, again, on your own personal biochemistry. And to go off of your analogy too, if you go to Jiffy Lube and get your oil changed 5,000, 10,000 miles, they tell you to do it every 3,000 miles, which is the same thing as the supplement person telling you, hey, you need all of these supplements because this is going to help you. And what you don't need is what you need to do is you need to check with yourself. You need to get the blood testing. You need to get that hair mineral testing. There's organic acids, urine testings. You need to get your DNA checked by a good company that can tell you, what enzymes that you have and don't have, and what your how your body works well with certain things. You see this actually in drugs with SSRIs. Some people are great with SSRIs. Some people do awful with SSRIs. But a doctor will just say, well, you depressed, you need an SSRI. And it's the same thing with 5-HTP. People in the nootropics space, they're like, well, I need 5-HTP because I need more serotonin, thinking serotonin is the happy chemical. So Dave, why not say 1 + 1 = 2? If I get 5-HTP, I'll have more serotonin and I'll be happy. And what happens to people when they take 5-HTP? Many of them end up with serotonin syndrome, which actually translates in the body to illness, to more anxiety. For some people, it can be serious gut issues. For some people, it can be severe pain. So these things they're really, really tricky.
So that was great. Thank you for that. I think that was hopefully helpful and interesting to people. And we can all be a little more self-aware of our expectations and some of these things. And this kind of Band-Aid mentality, this quick mentality. The other thing that is really interesting to me is when I do the private coaching and I start with water. How much water are you drinking? Oh, I really struggle with that. Okay, let's start there. Okay, now that's really, really fascinating, right? Because let's go back to this person that gets their blood test done and they think they got to run out there and get copper, selenium, magnesium, all those things you just said. Okay. And the fact is, they're not even utilizing the minerals that they're ingesting through their food or supplements because their body's not transporting those to the cells. The cells are not hydrated. Right.
Right.
And that's the other thing, this shiny object syndrome of I don't really want to change my habits. I don't really like drinking lots of water, but it's easy for me to buy a bottle of stuff and take it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's not as cut and dried. We don't rationalize that way to ourselves. We all rationalize. I do, you do, we all do. We're all just human and have to manage this whole process the best we can. But some of those things that you said. Now, first of all, it's fascinating to me because we crafted our Mimi's Miracle Multi based on the very concept that you just said. So first of all, this issue of mineral balance, we're a top seller of minerals on Amazon. Our Mimi's Miracle Multi is a top selling liquid trace mineral supplement. And then we have chromium and zinc in our multi. We do not have magnesium and we don't have calcium. And what we do teach is to follow our undiet principles, which teach get 5 to 9 servings of fruits and veggies per day, right? Mm-hmm. So personally, I get my blood work done on a regular basis. I try to do some type of biohacking test every 6 months. I just did a GI tract test and went over it with a nurse last week. It's super fascinating. It's the first time I've done that. I typically kind of default to blood work, but I got the GI tract test done this time. It was really, really interesting. But what we know from the biohacking is that there are certain things that are very difficult for people to get in line from food, to get their numbers. Like vitamin D is an interesting one. Mm-hmm. We just found that people can eat vitamin D. They can drink milk. They can take foods that supposedly have vitamin D, and yet they're not going to be and have enough vitamin D. 76% of Americans are deficient right now. And that one we have found is super effective to supplement with. We give it to someone. Your 90-day rule, I love it, by the way. 90 days. I teach that all the time. Give yourself at least 90 days, 6 months if you're a patient enough person. And what I found is that most people in 6 months can get their vitamin D up by taking 2,000 international units a day. That's going to do the trick. Get them in the 50 to 70 NM range, right? And so chromium is a really interesting one. Chromium GTF. Chromium is really difficult to get outside of supplementation. It just is. Nature isn't very good at providing us chromium. I think zinc is very similar, but you can't take zinc and magnesium. Like you mentioned that, right? And so it's super. In one of my blood tests last year, I was not deficient, but I was low in selenium, magnesium, selenium, magnesium, potassium. And those are things that I actually don't really want to go to supplements for. So I started eating a banana every day for the potassium. I started eating a small handful of cashew nuts every day for the selenium. And so I love what you're talking about with the educated crowd. I try to be one of those. I don't always get it right, but I try to be as educated as I can to know what should I get from food? What should I get from what are the best possible things to get out of supplements that I'm just never going to, reach my goals with food alone. And that may sound strange to people, Eric. We sometimes think, well, nature is pretty awesome, right? If we just all lived in a Garden of Eden type of area and ate from the land or had some kind of an organic hippie garden, we'd be perfect. Yeah. I actually don't believe that's the case. I actually think that the biohacking method of testing and then and it's living the healthy lifestyle for that 30 to 90 days to 6 months, then testing, and then trying to get all of our nutrition and all of our healthy habits from nutrition, exercise, stress management really is the way to go. And then being wise with what should we buy in bottles and what should be coming from our fridge.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And, the funny thing is like, as I've gotten more into this health conversation and I've, built so much content around it, and I've spoken with experts and, people like yourself and doctors and researchers and, entrepreneurs who are, they're not doctors, they're not PhDs, but what they are is they've got their hands on this stuff every day. And you have to be educated if you're going to sell a product, right? And I had this conversation, I had this podcast with this guy. His name is Brian Richards. He owns this red light sauna company called Sauna Space. And they're my number one recommended red light sauna because their saunas are very, they're more natural and they're made in America. So I think that's big. Most red light comes from China. And he mentioned this thing to me, and I think about this probably every single day, which is we're more bioenergetic than we are biochemical. And I think about that every day because when you start really digging into the science of biochemistry, I'm taking biochemistry class right now, and you start to like study things like the Krebs cycle, and you start to study like organic chemistry, and you start to understand how molecules work and how ions come together, and how at the base of every atom is a neutron, an electron, and a proton. These things work electrically. These things are attracted to each other through electricity. So when you try to biochemical your way out of something, what I say is you're giving your body the ingredients to do the thing you want it to do. But we all know, Dave, if you want to cook something, if you want to make an omelet, if you want to cook something on the stove, you can put all the ingredients in a pot, but you got to do one important thing to make that thing cook. You got to turn on the heat. And if you don't turn on the heat, you're just going to sit there with like a soupy gobbledygook mess. And that's what people that are doing with supplements and diet and spending all this money on all these things, when in fact, what they probably need to do is they probably need to work on their own energy. So things like light exposure, as hokey as it sounds, like the grounding stuff, going out in nature. Sleep is probably the biggest one that will make all the difference for you. It's not just like, will I fall asleep and will I get sleep? It's like, when you sleep, are you getting deep sleep? Are you getting REM sleep? Are you getting those correct cycles? Is your heart rate coming down? Is your heart rate variability going up? Is your temperature dropping? Is your body physically recovering? Because your body will do all the stuff you want it to do without taking anything. So that's the part of the conversation that I'm mostly interested in now. I think all the nootropics, all the supplements, all the vitamins, all the food, you can, like you said, eat from the Garden of Eden, and a lot of people do. And what's crazy? A lot of those people, their health hasn't gotten better because they miss this aspect. And you could put spiritual in there. I think having a gratitude practice, being like having things that like get you up in the morning. If you have no purpose in your life, you have no fire, you have no heat to stir the pot. You're not going to ever make the recipe of the body or the person that you want to be. You're just a messy gobbledygook of soup with stuff if you don't actually apply that whole other side to it, which is the energy.
I have a philosophy about this. It's a really interesting line of thought, and we'll explore this for a minute, and then jump into nootropics, because that's what I promised people you'd teach people about teaching about today. But along these lines, why I think it is that some people who are way into health don't get any better? It's because at the root of their exploration is the basic belief something's wrong with them and that they are broken. And they carry that all the way down the path.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there with a healthy mindset, eating that organic hippie food. They're going, I hope this will fix me. I hope this will fix me. Their energy is crap. They're not enjoying the food. They're not like prepping it with love and, this is gonna be so good. I can't wait to eat this. Like, that's good energy, right? Is that we're not eating something because we're supposed to, or because we're broken, or because someone told us we have an autoimmune disease. I'm not mocking autoimmune disease by any means there. I'm not saying they're not real. But what I'm saying is your belief in them and your faith, whether you can overcome it or not, plays a major role. And so that's one thing I've noticed. And that's just anecdotal stuff. That's just me. That's just me noticing some people around me who seem to be way into health, but are constantly sick, constantly fighting something, because they're hanging on. I think they're hanging on mentally, spiritually, whatever it is. However that's happening, I don't know. Yeah, somehow they're doing it with an underlying negative energy.
Well, there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's all about trauma. And I mean, when people have trauma in their lives at some point, I mean, people have legitimate, they have a legitimate sympathetic nervous system response that trumps whatever good they're doing in life. So they have they're pulled more to the negative side of things. So their energy is really not good. They're more easy to overreact to things. They're more easy to act emotionally to things.
Right.
And again, you can't eat yourself out of that. You can't supplement yourself out of that. Like that takes a whole other side of work that you have to do to really overcome that. And and it can be done. You know, they have amazing therapies out there. Like I'm really interested to see what's going on with the psychedelic therapies. Seem really cool.
Me too.
I mean, meditation, that's my go-to. That was
Me
my
too.
thing, you know. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of interesting practices in it, and some people they find it in religion, you know, whatever it is. I think that's why the holistic concept gets me. It's like we're so caught up in the biohacking technology and the biohacking foods and the biohacking supplements. It's all great, but there's also, you know, mind, body, and spirit. And man, that spirit is the fire that you need to have to make this whole thing work.
Love it. Okay. You're an expert in nootropics, and I probably said nootropics later. I actually didn't even know how to pronounce it, but I heard you say it earlier. So you said nootropics, right?
I was saying, but you know what? I was saying nootropics for the first year I was doing this too. And I still hear people say nootropics. I don't know if anybody's ever really
Okay, so hopefully
out,
the grammar police don't get me for that one, but we'll call them nootropics because it does sound more professional.
Yeah.
Top lessons. Let me start this way. Is there a nootropic, since you started your research, that you can't be without and that you think other people ought to not be without?
Again, you know, I can't get in the space of saying like what is good for somebody or not. Like there is no like slam dunk.
But there isn't some, this is good for everybody. There isn't the nootropic you would say that about.
I would say if you were gonna like push me into a corner and be like, Eric, I need that nootropic that I'm gonna give to my millions of followers back there, that's gonna pull them out of their, you know, whatever. I would say if you wanted to say that one nootropic, I would say Ltheanine. Ltheanine is it's an amino acid, and basically what it is, it's a very calming amino acid. So it works on the GABA part of your brain, and so it induces calm. And a lot of people like to take it with caffeine. It plays really well with caffeine. Is that in that caffeine can like stimulate you, and Ltheanine, it won't make you sleepy, but what it will do is it will take all of that kind of frantic energy and kind of streamline it into the direction you want to go. A lot of people do like to use Ltheanine for sleep. I found that Ltheanine for me with sleep, any supplement for me with sleep is no good. But Ltheanine especially will give me the most vivid dreams. That and CBD will give me incredibly vivid dreams to the point where it's like very hard to sleep. So it really gets it's the alpha state wave. So, you know, when you hear people talk about like flow state, Ltheanine is a great nootropic for flow state. So it's great for creative types. It's great for people who have to get, like, I like to take it in the morning, especially when I got a lot of work to do, a lot of school work. I got, you know, business work. If I'm going to do a podcast or two, like it really helps keep my mind kind of centered. It's not overpowering in any way that like you're not going to feel a buzz from it, but you know, there are those times where I take it and I feel it and I'm like, oh, okay, I just got 2 hours of work done and the time just flew, you know?
Cool.
So Ltheanine would be that one nootropic. Another really good one that I would tell people, which is, and I'm a big believer in, like, a lot of people like to experiment with some pretty wild stuff, but I'm more of the belief like, hey, like, what are the things that are good that have very low risk and you get the most reward for the lowest risk? I'm not talking like high risk, high reward. I'm talking like good size risk, good size reward, not too much risk.
Love it.
Phosphatidylserine. Phosphatidylserine, it's a phospholipid. You know, your brain, your cells, every cell in your body, the membrane is made up of phospholipids. So it's a fatty acid with, it's a polar molecule with non-polar fatty acid molecules. And so this is a phospholipid that, just like all the phospholipids on the membrane of all your cells, it's just like that. And so the membrane of your cells, this is where all of your intracellular communication happens. This is where your brain is, your membranes are selective, so they are able to decide what goes in the cell, what doesn't go in the cell. Better regulates sodium, potassium regulation, amino acid regulation, all of the things that go in your cells to power your cells. You want a strong membrane that can best select what needs to go in at the right times, right? And get the things out that need to get out. So how does that translate for you when you take the nootropic? It's very good with your HPA axis, which is your stress superhighway. So phosphatidylserine can modulate your HPA axis. So for those people who do have the very, exaggerated stress response, this will help calm that. But it won't make you sleepy. It'll just kind of level you out. And just like the Ltheanine, it's the nootropic side of it is very focus centered. So calming, focus. It's a great, and some people do like to take that one for sleep. Again, I don't think that's a good one for sleep, but some people it works for.
Okay, another thing I'm really interested in and a big fan of is mushrooms of various kinds. You mentioned lion's mane earlier, and how many mushrooms fall into the nootropics category, do you think?
There's quite a few. So you have lion's mane, reishi, chaga, cordyceps. Those are the big ones.
Okay.
A lot of people like the turkey tail, maitake. So we're looking at 7 right there. I think there's definitely a shiitake. So there could be probably around 10 nootropics. Some might not even know about magic mushrooms, right? Some people like to microdose psilocybin, which I think is super interesting. I've never done it, but I think that would be wild to do.
I have macro dosed it. I mean, when I was
certainly macro dosed it. Yeah, and
when I was a teen, I know what it's like to take as a dumb partying kid.
Yeah. So mushrooms are amazing, but again, they all don't work the same, and they all don't work the same for the same people.
Right.
I think lion's mane is kind of like my default mushroom because again, I like the nootropics that are very centered on focus. So like I like stuff that really gets me in the zone, and lion's mane is hands down the best mushroom for like if you want focus, if you want to get that flow state. It's a little bit of an upper, but not much. Some people do have issues with lion's mane. I've heard. I haven't experienced side effects from it. There's reishi mushroom is probably the other big nootropic mushroom. That's more of like not sedating, but kind of like that's like a little bit of more of a downer if you want more relaxation. There are like sleep formulas that will include reishi mushroom in it. It's a good like kind of later in the day nootropic, but that's kind of even more in the adaptogen realm. So you can use reishi early in the morning, and it's not going to make you sleepy, but it will work on your hypothalamic pituitary axis to kind of help your body start to relax as the day wears on, syncs you up with a normal circadian rhythm. There's immune properties to it. So reishi's great. Cordyceps is more of like a physiological thing. So cordyceps is good for, kind of like physical endurance. And chaga is really more based for the immune system and like gut health and that sort of thing.
What do you think of getting these things through these teas now, like Four Sigmatic, and there's a variety of competitors to them on Amazon. It's quite easy to buy yourself a little tea packet with either lion's mane or cordyceps or reishi or whatever individually in a little powder package, and you just put it in your hot drink, or sometimes combinations of 3, 4, 5. What do you think of ingesting them that way?
I think it really depends on the person. Some people don't do well with capsules. If you have digestive issues, capsules are not going to work for you because you're not going to, like a lot of people have acid reflux and GERD, which means they're low on stomach acid, which means when they eat something, it's not being properly broken down in their stomach. So you see a lot of these people who they take supplements, they take capsules, and they poop them out. They see the capsules or they see the the pill or whatever, and you're not getting the nutrition that way. So absolutely, I'm actually a big fan of getting my own kind of dry herb and making my own tinctures with that stuff. So that's a little bit more involved because you have to, your kitchen will turn into like a chemistry lab almost, where you'll have things boiling. You'll have several packets of herbs. You know, you got to get some alcohol in it. You know, you got to extract stuff, and then you have to put it on the shelf for like 2-3 months for it to actually get the full extraction of it. But once you get the extraction, I find that for me, that's the most bioavailable way to take something. But I understand that's not for everybody. So I think like the tea is a great way to go. You're guaranteed to actually get it in your body versus a capsule.
Okay, now it's been a while since I went to your website. I was reading a lot about it when you interviewed me, and I was a little more up on nootropics at the time because it was top of mind. And I'm not an expert by any means. But do I recall correctly that creatine was listed as a nootropic?
I don't think I've written about creatine, but a lot of people, a lot of people do like creatine for nootropic qualities.
Okay.
You know what those qualities are. Like, I haven't really researched creatine enough as a nootropic. I know what it can do for muscle synthesis and physical exercise, but there are a lot of people who do like to use. Actually, I was listening to a podcast today with Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist from Stanford, and he's got a very popular podcast, and he was actually mentioning creatine as a potent nootropic. But
Okay.
The specific effects of it, I don't know. But I will say, I was taking creatine for a little while, and this is just my own personal experience. So, take it for what you will. It certainly works. It certainly helps you add a little bit more muscle on it. But I think it has some interesting effects, like not so good effects in the stomach. For me specifically, I started getting some weird stomach cramps when I was taking it. So I kind of go on and off of it. And I did notice that with myself, because I do wear the Oura ring, so I track my sleep. And when I'm on it, my deep sleep just isn't quite there as when I'm not on it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm a little, I know it's great. I know it's one of the most studied supplements out there, but for me, it's,
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess you would be more of an outlier in that because there's so much research on creatine, including people in debilitating situations like stuck in a hospital for 6 weeks and all kinds of things. And so, but it's like anything, right? I mean, the bottom line, what I hear out of your story is, you did a personal experiment. You know how it works for you, and for everyone listening, that is the case with all of these things. But however, that being said, I would venture to say that most people listening, if you've never taken creatine before, chances are you're not going to experience a negative like that. It's like everything. We all have aversion or some kind of allergy or reaction to something that many other people do well on. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And I've kept you for quite a while, but we've explored a few. We've explored some of your top ones. But what are the ones that we would be amiss to not mention before I let you go?
Nootropics that
people ought to know about, that are, quite powerful and interesting. And if there's like a top 10 of nootropics and you've listed, say, 5, what would round out a top 7, top 8, top 10 list, just top of mind?
Yeah. So, man, it's a loaded question because there's so many good ones out there, so many interesting things, and so many people get so many different effects. Like, for some people, some of these nootropics are game changers, but I will say the cholinergics. So like CDP Choline or AlphaGPC, one of those two. They work on the choline. They're a precursor to acetylcholine. Your acetylcholine is dispersed through your parasympathetic nervous system, and in the brain, it's a potent nootropic. It's great for memory. It's great for focus. It's one of the most popular nootropics out there. So some kind of choline precursor like that. And which one works for you? Like, everybody has their own preferred CDP choline, also called CD choline or alpha GPC. Try them both. See which one works for you. You have the blends out there. So there's like the Mind Lab Pro, Qualia Mind, Alpha Brain. There's a new one called Thesis Nootropics, which I really like because what they do is you can go on their website and you take like a short little like personal quiz, and they personalize the nootropic stacks for you. So you're not just like, I bought this product and those are the only nootropics. Like, they have like somewhere between like 7 and 10 different blends that you can like kind of when you get like a subscription to their service that only have like 4 or 5 different nootropics in them. And you can take those nootropics throughout the week, you know, and they say like, they have them, you know, segmented like, this is our focus stack. This is our memory stack. This is our calm stack. This is our,
okay.
You know what I mean? So,
and what website was that, Eric?
It's called Thesis Nootropics Takethesis.com, I believe is the website.
Interesting.
So yeah, so the blends are really interesting. I always tell people too, like, if you like really want to hack your brain, you're like, I want to just see what this nootropics thing's about. Yeah, you could take a few of the things that I mentioned. You could take some phosphatidylserine. You could take some AlphaGPC. To me, that's like the smartest way, just to see like how you do it. Don't overwhelm yourself. But if you go, the best way to me to go from 0 to 10 on nootropics, because a lot of people want to do it. A lot of people just want to say, I need to hack my brain, right? So what can I do? You know, taking a product like MindLab Pro or Quality of Mind or Alpha Brain isn't the worst thing you could do. You know, see how you do with it. Some people do very, very well with these. Some of these products are game changers, and some people think that it doesn't work for them. And for people it doesn't work for, doesn't mean that nootropics don't work for you. It means that product doesn't work for you. And a lot of those products, you know, again, the synergy of these things, it's very individual, especially in a product like Qualia where there's 28 different ingredients. You know, you're messing with a lot of different variables in your experiment. So maybe then scale it back and go, I want to just try a choline like AlphaGPC. I want to try a phosphatidylserine, and I want to try like an adaptogen, maybe like Rhodiola rosea, Bacopa monnieri. And then for those real hardcore brain hackers out there, and again, you know, I know you mentioned at the beginning, like, hey, your crowd is they're a little older. They're not the younger 25-year-old. I get it. You know, that's kind of like, that's the misunderstanding about the nootropics and the biohacking space, which is that it's only this kind of younger brain hacking crowd. Absolutely not. In fact, the people that probably get the most benefit out of nootropics are the older crowds, because they're the ones with the most cognitive decline. Most of these studies, like when you're talking about nootropics for memory, like let's say a Bacopa monnieri, for instance, most of these studies have been done in people with Alzheimer's. So, you know, they're testing these things in people who have, you know, severe Alzheimer's, severe Parkinson's, severe, you know, insulin resistance, diabetes. They want to know how this works on the most extreme instances. So, you know, like for someone in your crowd might do very well with a spermidine supplement, which is a more anti-aging supplement. Someone like me, I'm 40, so a 25-year-old, these anti-aging supplements, they don't do anything. You don't know. It's like, okay, what does that do for me? Somebody who's in their 50s, 60s, who might start feeling the autoimmune diseases, who might start experiencing some, you know, issues with the breathing, who might start experiencing some of these sleep issues. You know, when they start taking a spermidine, when they start taking a methylene blue, when they start taking an astragalus, something like that, they might actually feel it. They might actually say, oh my God, like I have all this energy now. I didn't have this energy before. And spermidine is probably the best one of those that has like the least amount of like questions around it, but also methylene blue. It's a mitochondrial enhancer. I mean, talk about an energy booster. It's going to literally go in your cells and boost your mitochondrial output. So, yeah, so there's just so many great ones out there. But those would be, just off the top of my head, the ones I would say are great.
We actually resell one on our site. I've got some right here. This is called Focus Up. The Pure Energy Think Drink.
Cool.
I love this stuff. I take one like every morning before I do my my important work for the day, planning and writing and just kind of thinking through, and I love it. It is an energy drink, but it's designed to give you more focus and clarity. And so it's really a fascinating world to find a product like that and take it. And it's a world I haven't really explored. I have problems with my memory. It's kind of genetic. My brother is a professor at a university and really struggles with memory. He's very intelligent. You know, he's a PhD scientist. But we understand from our genetics that short-term memory is a challenge in our family. And as I've been listening to you, I've realized, you know, I've kind of missed the boat. I need to be exploring this because it is frustrating to me to have done an interview yesterday and have to go re-listen to some of it because of an important point that I wanted to mention in the blog post. You know what I'm saying? Like that I think I shouldn't have forgotten that, you know. I remember it was important, but I can't remember exactly what it was or approximately when Eric said it or whatever, right? And so it's interesting. It's a world I ought to explore, and starting with the memory. And I'd love to have a better memory. And just because it's genetic doesn't mean I can't still do the best I can with what I have, right?
Yeah,
Try
totally.
to, you know. So yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and you know, a lot of things with memory too. You know, we're talking about like dementia, right? Alzheimer's. You know, they call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because a lot of it is based off of advanced glycation end products, which is like it's a sugar dysregulation. So, you know, yeah, you know, you could go with a nootropic or a pharmaceutical that's been studied specifically for Alzheimer's that works on a specific enzyme in the brain, or you could address the blood sugar component and start looking at compounds like berberine, chromium, you know, cinnamon, bitter melon. These sorts of things are really potent with blood sugar regulation, working with your liver, like an NAC. We don't even talk about NAC. You know, these things that really help this whole blood sugar complex. So your body can better utilize the blood sugars so they don't end up essentially, you know, rotting the membranes of your cells, so that, you know, a lot of this does affect Alzheimer's. And one more thing I will say about that too is, you know, we're talking about testing heavy metals, right? Heavy metals, like aluminum specifically. This is at the heart of a lot of these plaques that they find in, you know, in the brain that are tied to Alzheimer's. So a lot of people have a ton of aluminum exposure. If you're eating out of aluminum cans, you know, lead exposure, mercury exposure, these sorts of things you can see on a hair mineral test. And, you know, it's a pretty solid reading because the metals accumulate in your your tissues, and then that can be read out through your hair over the course of like 3 months. So you can get a really nice long-term view of, well, how big is this? And you'd be shocked sometimes to see what your metal exposure is, especially, again, people trying to eat healthy. A lot of these healthy foods come out of cans, you know? So it's all there.
Another plug for testing. It's another reason why I test every 6 months, because I want to know that stuff. You know, I want to know what junk is in my body that I want to get rid of, and what is good that should be in my body that I don't have enough of. You know, the two big things about testing: is there something there that shouldn't be there? And is there something missing that should be there? And I don't know any other way of doing that than through testing. So Eric, it has been a lot of fun to have you on the show. You got all kinds of interesting talking points and ideas, and I really love your holistic approach. It's something that I also agree with. I want to age gracefully without drugs.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So, you know, I will say this: Western medicine is excellent at diagnosing things. The problem comes in with their solutions, which half the time, back to the car analogy, right? It's like, hey, we found out that your car's got problems, and so the engine's kind of wearing out. So what we're going to do, we're going to install a littler engine back behind you to push the car. And you're like, I don't need that. Let's fix the engine I've got. You know. Sometimes the solutions literally don't make sense. My daughter had a health concern just last week where I said, well, go to the clinic to get diagnosed, but whatever you do, don't accept their solution right away, and make sure and ask them when they offer their solution, is this a solution to the source of the problem? Or is this a way to make me feel better while continuing to have the problem, right? Like that's the question you always have to ask in Western medicine, because they're trying to present it like it's a solution. It's not a solution. All they're dealing with are your symptoms.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how many people are living without gallbladders. You know, it's like they take those things out. You know, if you go to a gastroenterologist, they're gonna tell you, you got to get your gallbladder out. You're gonna say, is that okay? I'm like, of course. So many people live without their gallbladders. You know, your car analogy. Hey, you go to the mechanic. Yeah, my car's just not running well. Well, you know what you need? You got to take one of your tires off. Or you're going to put a new one on? No, you're just going to drive without a tire. Which one? And it doesn't matter. You know, everybody can drive with 3 tires. People do it all the time. You know, you see 3-tire cars driving down the street all the time. And the fact is that, you know, people are powerless. People just, this medical stuff, it's so intimidating. It's so difficult. It's so complex. And the more you know, I think the healthiest way to go about it is like the more you know, the more you have to realize you don't know. That was probably my number one lesson during COVID was I just threw everything out. I said, I don't know anything. You know, as soon when COVID hit and all this stuff was happening, I just said, I'm done. Like, I'm just going to start from zero. I'm going to start from scratch because I can't, it's not just COVID. It's all of the things that came out with COVID. Like when we started realizing started talking about comorbidities for the first time, you know, started realizing how many people are truly suffering with comorbidities. And now you got long COVID, and long COVID is the same presentation as things that we probably have seen for years, brain fog, chronic fatigue, you know, but now it's long COVID, right? So now people are saying that their chronic fatigue and their brain fog, it's long COVID, but now at least we're talking about that stuff and we're trying to address it. Brain fog isn't some, you know, kind of whimsical thing that, you know, holistic people just make up. It's like, no, people actually have this issue. Where does it come from? So it's just a constant, like, never-ending exploration for the truth. This is why they still do science. This is why they still are studying, you know, the liver and the gallbladder and the pancreas and the thyroid, because we just don't know. You know, we don't know because how many people have hypothyroid? After all these years, we know so much about it, right? But we still can't figure it out. Most doctors can't even read a thyroid test correctly. You know, so it's like, and these are the problems that people are truly suffering with. Like, we're so focused on cancer, that's of course serious, and COVID, that's of course serious. But like, what about the people out there who have the hypothyroid, who have Hashimoto's, who every day they wake up and they just feel suboptimal? They just live at this kind of, on a scale of 1 to 10, they live at a 2 every day. You know, you and me, like we decided a long time ago, our health is going to be our priority. So like, I know what it feels like to live at a 10. You probably know what it feels like to live at a 9 or a 10. But then, you know, when you're not a 10, you know how much that sucks. You know how much if you wake up, like if I drink, you know, and then I wake up the next day, or if I have like a late meal and it's kind of heavy, or I eat out and there's a lot of seed oils in this crap and it's fried food, I wake up the next day, I'm at a 2 or 3. I know that feeling. There's people who wake up at 2 and 3 every day, and that's like their normal thing. So they're like in this haze and they just don't get it. But man, if you get those people to even a 5 or a 6, forget it. Like, you know, the emperor has no clothes. You took them to Oz. Now they're curious. Now they really want that, and now they're interested to see, like, well, you're telling me my thyroid hasn't been that's why I can't wake up in the morning. That's why I'm always depressed. That's why I'm always anxious. That's why, like, every time somebody tells me something, I always think the worst possible thing is going to happen about it. For some people, that's the case. So, this health thing, it's just never ending. We just have to just continue learning and continue exploring. And that's why you're doing great work, Dave. I have to commend you.
Well, I love it. Thank you very much. And of course, you are providing a lot of information on your website. Tell us how people learn more about you. Where do they find you? What are you offering? What are you doing right now to make a living? Do you have a coaching program? Are you selling products? What are you doing?
Well, right now I'm not coaching. I'm not selling products. I'm actually finishing up school, and I'm potentially going to be starting medical school in the fall.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of, we'll see. But if people want to learn more about me, they can go to holisticnootropics.com or holisticnootropics.com, whichever you prefer. And if you go to my homepage, on the top of the homepage, you can download my supplement buying guide. So this isn't promoting any products specifically. It's just, what are the ingredients to look out for in supplements to make sure that you get the best quality supplements out there? Because I think you said that you sell supplements on Amazon. You know, I actually tell people to not buy supplements on Amazon because, as you know, like, the seller portals are very loosey-goosey. So a lot of times you get people on there.
Actually, not anymore. So you might be surprised to know that last November, Amazon came out and demanded third-party accredited lab tests of all supplements.
That's
And
great.
we lost 50% of the shady sellers on Amazon. I kid you not. It was very expensive for us. It probably cost me $15,000 to $20,000 to get this testing done.
Wow.
Some of these individual products, like I have multiple ingredients, and every single one of them costs a different amount from the lab to test. And they verified that what we said was in here in the right amounts. And then we also had to prove that there was not known toxins in the supplements that are in some supplements. So I agree with you. I do think that used to be the case. I would say Amazon has done a wonderful job of cleaning up. But you mentioned NAC earlier. So on the other hand, you cannot buy NAC on Amazon anymore, which is ridiculous, right? It's bizarre, actually. And so they're doing a good job in getting rid of the junk sellers. I would say you can buy supplements on Amazon with more confidence today than you could 2 years ago.
That's great.
I will say that.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that, and I think that's great news because Amazon it's a powerful marketplace, and I'm probably one of the few millennials who actually like supports it. Like I think it's great. Like I'll come out and support it. Like I won't buy stuff from there and then say I hate Amazon. Like I love Amazon.
Right.
But aside from that, it's like you also have sellers on there who are selling products even if they've gotten them tested. There's a lot of like things you have to be on the lookout for in supplements. Certain fillers that are put into these things, certain excipients, flow agents, these sorts of things. There's just ingredients that, when you get the supplement, if it has it in there, it really diminishes the quality of the supplement. Not to mention if you have somebody who has like an allergy or sensitivity to some of these things, like certain oils or food colorings, or, they put talc in some of these things, aluminum, magnesium, like stearate and these sorts of things. Like you have to know what you're getting into and know like what to look out for to get the best quality. And there's companies, I'm sure like yours, that are doing it right, that are not cutting corners, that are making sure that the best quality products getting out there. So my supplement guide is basically just a way for people to download this, have it on their desktop or on their phone. So if they go to GNC, if they go to Costco, if they go to Walgreens and buy something, they can look at these supplements and say, does it have these things in it? Does it have food coloring in it? Does it have, vegetable oil powder? These sorts of things. You can automatically say, well, I'm not getting that. I'm going to find something better. So, and then, we do have a lot of reviews on the website. We do have a lot of products that we do think that we do promote that I think are better than others. So those are all in my recommended products section. So if you like what I'm saying here, if you look at me like someone who kind of knows what they're talking about, you can check out what I like there. And then you can go over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/holistic nootropics. I've interviewed you, the great Dave Sherwin. I have probably about 80 interviews up there right now, more coming with experts. Super interesting stuff. And then the Instagram page at holistic_nootropics. And we're just getting started with that too. So lots of awesome stuff.
Well, fantastic. Eric, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Dave. This was a blast. I really appreciate you having me.
It was a great discussion all over the map, but all of it was really interesting to me. I hope it was to you as well, those of you listening. And until next time, this is Dave Sherwin wishing you health and success.